I think the thing that gives hypnosis is about rap is maybe the performing hypnosis. You go to a stage show and you see people doing silly things, and it makes it seem kind of scary because it makes it you feel like somebody is controlling your mind.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Hello Hot Flash, where we help you control the midlife change. I'm here today with Rita Black. Rita, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Hello, everybody.
Rita, you're awesome. You're awesome. We've had a really cool conversation before the show started, so I know you guys are going to learn a ton today. Rita is a clinical hypnotherapist that specializes in both weight mastery and smoking vaping cessation. Over the last 20 years, she's developed two hypnosis-based processes that have helped over 25,000 people either quit smoking or lose weight for the last time. She's also a best-selling author and the host of the Thin Thinking podcast. Love it. How are you doing,
I
Rita?
am doing great. I am so happy to be here with you, Stephanie.
Yeah, when I mentioned the word hypnosis, people were probably like, "Whoa, hold up, wait a minute. You're
Yeah.
either like for it or against it. It's like no gray when it comes to hypnosis." People are curious. So, what are some of those big myths around hypnosis?
Yeah, I love it. I remember when I started my practice 20 years ago, out of every time I picked up the phone, because this was back in the days when there were no iPhones when I started. We were working with cassette tapes back then. I mean, this was a long time ago. And people would be like, "Are you going to make me cluck like a chicken? Are you going to make me bark like a dog?" I'm like, "No, no, but I might help you eat like a bird." But so yeah, there is a lot of mythology about hypnosis. And hey, I am a former cynic when it comes to hypnosis. I quit smoking with hypnosis in one session. That is how I got into becoming a hypnotherapist and just the whole thing. But my best friend actually said, "Hey, I quit smoking with hypnosis." And I was like, "Oh, you mean some creepy guy with a polyester suit and a mustache, and he took out his watch and he waved it in front of your face and he controlled your mind?" Like, hell no, I'm not going to let anybody do that to me. And she's like, "No, no, it's not like that at all. And this guy's really cool and he'll explain it to you." So I was like, "Okay," because I had been trying to quit smoking forever. I was a pack and a half a day smoker. So I went along, and the guy was really cool. And it wasn't it. I think the thing that gives hypnosis is about rap is maybe the performing hypnosis. Like, you go to a stage show and you see people doing silly things, and it makes it seem kind of scary because it makes it you feel like somebody is controlling your mind. But the actual fact is that all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. And when I work with people or, in my programs, it's therapeutic, meaning it's not staged. You're not being made to do anything you don't want to do. In fact, your conscious mind actually has to be aligned with with what you want to change. So like I'll get people calling me all the time, like women saying, "My husband needs to quit smoking. You're going to make him stop." And I was like, "No, no. Does your husband want to quit smoking?" And she's like, "No, he doesn't, but you can make him stop, right?" I was like, "No, I can't make anybody do something that they don't want to do." If that was true, then my husband would be picking up his socks after 35 years of marriage, and he is not. So,
And I've
no.
been married 35 years too. So when you figure it out, call me, Rita. Now he's free.
Exactly. Hypnosis, I don't know if you can, maybe if you went to a hypnotist, that person could make him quit, but I haven't been able to do it yet. Sorry.
So thank you for clearing that up because you often say that it's not about willpower, it's about mind power. So
Mhm.
unpack for us what that really means.
Okay, I will. I'd be happy to. Can I ask you a question, Stephanie? I didn't
Sure.
ask you this before we started. Do people see the video like, is this video or is this audio or is this both?
Both.
Okay, so I will speak to both audiences then. So behind me I have this like big circle, and if you are just listening, I want you to imagine the circle has like a circle with just the top part of it. And that part, or like imagine an iceberg, and you can imagine like only the tip of the iceberg is showing above the water. And then all this big, huge iceberg is underneath. So that little teeny tiny top of the circle is your conscious mind. That's the critical analytical willpower part of the mind. That's the part of the mind that wants to quit smoking or wants to lose weight or and when I work with weight management, the important thing is to know is that most people who struggle with their weight know everything that there is to know about weight loss because they've struggled long enough. They've read all the books. They know what's going on. So I kind of have a joke. I say, you could write your own New York Times best-selling book on weight loss and have people lose weight. Your knowledge is not the problem. And often when we're trying to lose weight or quit smoking, what we are primarily doing is exerting conscious willpower. But what happens is from birth until we're in our 20s, everything that happens to us, parents, teachers, life experiences get imprinted on our subconscious mind. And in our subconscious mind is many, many things. Our subconscious mind is way more powerful. It's like the most powerful computer on the face of the planet. And in our subconscious, we have identity. We have, all right, so when I was a smoker, I saw myself as a smoker. Many people who struggle with smoking, they're always like, in their mind, if you see yourself as the problem, then solving the problem from the problem doesn't work. If does that make sense? Like, so as a smoker, I was still a smoker trying not to smoke rather than stepping into a new identity of a non-smoker. And that's what happened in hypnosis is I was able to become a non-smoker. And what that does is it's called a cognitive reframe. It allows you to re-see who you are, right? So the same thing with weight management is like we see ourselves as somebody who struggles with weight. So we're always struggling against that. And then in our subconscious is our beliefs and our habits. So the patterns of behavior like night eating or snacking or stress eating or emotional eating, it's all patterned in. So even though consciously you may say, I'm not going to eat snack after dinner tonight, or I'm not going to snack. How many times do we promise, like, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do this, and then we do it. And we blame ourselves and we think we're horrible and undisciplined and that we're crazy because we know what to do, but we're not doing it. But the problem is just that the subconscious mind is acting out of its own, it's like on rote. It's once something gets dialed into the subconscious mind, there's a critical filter that develops in our 20s that really filters out everything that we know to be true. So like if we're like, oh, it's hard for me to lose weight, then even if we can consciously lose some weight, we'll always get pulled back into the same old thoughts and patterns.
Mhm.
So, how hypnosis helps is in the state of hypnosis, this critical filter, which, really kind of filters, like I said, just filters out all the millions of bits and pieces of information, um, becomes relaxed so that suggestions, new ideas, and ways of thinking can be shifted in the mind very rapidly. And so that's why rapid change can, like when I work with somebody with smoking, it's one session. Um, they can come as a smoker, leave as a non-smoker. We do a lot of talking. I do coaching prior to the actual session because you do need to be prepared and you do need to know that I know what I'm doing. Like you need to trust your practitioner.
Right.
So, but does that make sense? I hope I
Yeah,
answered your
no,
question.
no, it
Yeah.
does. It does. It made me think of, so the one session, I'm no longer smoking. Do I still need to come to you? What's life look like after that? I'm no longer smoking.
Once you are
Clinically.
a once you are a non-smoker, I send people away with audios to kind of reinforce that, but your mind will move on pretty quickly because what you're doing is getting your whole mind now engaged. So your identity is now shifted. You now believe that I in my session, I work with like things like a huge thing for people with smoking or vaping is this idea of like, well, I wake up in the morning and how am I going to have my coffee without my cigarette? Because, that's a big thing, right? And I was like, well, you're not. What you are going, because a lot of people say, should I switch to tea? Should I not drink coffee? And I was like, oh, no, 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 no. Because what happens is we're removing the word without. You're just having your coffee as a non-smoker. So what you're doing is you're pulling your mind forward rather than looking at the deprivation. You're looking at the transformation. So
Yeah.
you're stepping into a new with both like weight and with smoking, what we're really focusing on is changing not just the identity, but the world that you live in, meaning you're stepping into, like, for instance, you said you've been married for 35 years, right? That when you got married, that moment you said I do, you changed identity because you became a wife, right? You were a single woman, and in a microsecond you became a wife and you stepped into this new world of being married. And then that world started to shape your behavior, how you saw yourself. Does that give you a better context?
Yeah.
So when we work with weight management, we work with like weight mastery. That's the name of my program, is like a weight mastery program, because it's the idea of being an apprentice. So instead of being a weight struggler, you're a weight learner. You're learning how to, because the biggest pattern problem that most people have is they'll be on a diet or some sort of external plan, and then they'll fall off it. They'll, eat the brownie, they'll have the pizza or go out, they'll stress eat, and they'll be like, oh, I blew it and I'm going to start again tomorrow. Right. And the problem with that is that then you don't learn anything. You don't learn like why did that happen? Like in our lives, the
Mhm.
areas of our lives that really work, we've self-corrected so many times and smoothed things out and gotten good at things, not, like driving or any of the major skills that we have that we feel masterful in, we don't even think about anymore. You thought a lot about in the beginning and self-corrected, mothering, like parenthood, all of those things. It's always an evolution. It's always a mastery process. But when it comes to things like weight or even smoking, it's like, well, I blew it. I'm just going to go back to smoking. I blew it. I'll start again on Monday. And that actually becomes then a habit that we get pulled into as well.
Yeah. So what's often the turning point for people? Like it feels like even though you prepare them, they have to be prepared to get prepared. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So either for yourself or for your clients, what's normally that turning point where you would say someone's ready to start this process?
Yeah. Well, I think it's really interesting for smoking. I mean, I don't think anybody ever feels ready 100%. And a lot of my programs or processes know this. So we are like taking you from, I want to do this. I know that this is an opportunity for me, but I have fear, I have doubt, I have limiting beliefs. And what we're doing before we even get engaged in the process is we're getting you ready to be successful.
Mhm.
Because I do think you're very right. We actually have a term called the turning point, where you have to kind of forgive yourself. Like I think we have a lot of self-resentment against ourselves when we struggle with weight, especially, and smoking too. And I think you have to give yourself some grace. I think you have to forgive yourself, to align with yourself. I think people think, oh, if I forgive myself, then that's just going to give me permission to even go crazier and be more in discipline. It's like that. It's actually not. When you forgive yourself and start respecting yourself, we have a term, loving yourself down the scale, because I think you have to meet yourself where you're at.
Right.
And you have to say, I believe in you and we can do this, but we get to do this one baby step at a time, because nobody lives in your head except for you 24/7. So any diet, any guru, anything, it's like we are really believing that you are the boss and that you need to take that ownership and that responsibility and then be trained in a way with skills and ways of thinking. So we use hypnosis as part of it, but it's not just, go in, get hypnotized and come out and, lose 50 pounds. It's more of a foundational process of really working really with yourself in a very intimate way, because weight management is incredibly intimate with yourself. Most women who struggle with weight think about weight, food, stuff around weight management like 60 to 70% of their day. You know what I mean? Like it's a big piece of our brain. If women really got together and said, okay, we aren't going to think about this anymore or worry about this, we could have cracked cancer, cold fusion, all of that stuff, all of that brain power going, but Hey, look, and it's a struggle because it's our reality, and we live in a world that is totally wired against us. For, we are being bombarded by food images, images of skinny women. Like, our brain is just constantly stimulated with stuff that's saying you're not enough, you got to do better, pull it together, more willpower, different diet, blah blah blah. It's enough to send you crazy.
It definitely is. So when we're talking to ourselves, how do we change that self-talk? What do we do in order to keep ourselves moving forward?
Well, that's a great question. I think the first step is to make a decision that you are going to be on a journey of a learner's journey of mastery. Have you heard the term hero's journey?
No.
It's there was this guy, Joseph Campbell, who I think now has been canceled because somebody said, oh, well, he was a Nazi or something like that. I was like, oh, okay, sorry about that. But he did do something that was interesting, which was he studied all the cultures of the world and their languaging, their storytelling.
Mhm.
And in their storytelling, they all of these different, from Antarctica to, Hawaii to all over, it all followed the same story pattern, which is reluctant hero. Then and Hollywood mimics this in all screenplays, which is like there's usually at the beginning of the movie is somebody who's reluctant to do the thing, like go on the journey, do, whatever the thing. And then the reluctant hero then makes the decision to go on the journey, whatever that journey is. Now, in the beginning, the reluctant hero does not believe in themselves in some way. They don't. They're hesitant. That whatever it is, the obstacle seems too big, and they're usually stuck in themselves. And then they decide, okay, the pain becomes so great, they make that decision. I'm going to take this risk. I'm going to have some courage, and I'm going to move on. Once they do, then once the hero is on the journey, they usually are met by a guide. Like if we used Star Wars, Luke Skywalker meets Yoda or something like that, right? And but then Darth Vader is the antagonist, right? So we have this hero who's being bombarded by obstacles, and every obstacle that hero has to become more of themselves, more, of transformed in order to overcome the obstacle and then finally slay the dragon. I mean, that's in the hero's journey. It's like you're in the innermost cave slaying the dragon, which usually means in our own selves, in our own soul, slaying the dragon in some sort of way. And then, they become transformed. And I feel like every journey, and especially the weight mastery journey, is a hero's journey. So I think you need to decide first that you're going on a journey, not trying to be good on a diet. It's not about being good or bad. I think that's the framework that we're given in the world, in the diet industry, is like being good on a diet, being bad, and then you're being bad on a diet. And there is no good or bad in a journey. It's like learning and figuring it out and learning and figuring it out and learning and figuring it out. And really, so I think the first step is to decide you're on that journey and to decide that you're the hero, that you're the learner, you're mastering, not some jerk who can't pull it together and be on a diet, because diets don't work. So you're, not, I think you have to forgive yourself and then make the decision to believe that you can do this. And once you do that, you are getting all of your brain working with you, because you're not just dealing with the conscious mind, you're now dealing with your identity, your ideal. And one of the most important things we have in the shift is we use vision work. So we use like creating a vision of where you want to be, not just about getting thin and what you look like, but who you are becoming in that journey.
Mhm.
Oh, I'm becoming a person who gets my husband to work with me and to make healthy foods. Oh, I'm, like I released 40 pounds and I've kept it off for 30 years with the help of hypnosis, right? So, like, I'm somebody who struggled with my weight desperately. I knew it wasn't just about food because my mom was a nutritionist and she struggled with her weight. She was 80 pounds, like, so it wasn't just about like getting the food right. It was more about really learning to, have a relationship with yourself.
Yeah.
And we use inner parts work in what I do because we believe in like this idea of the inner critic and the inner rebel. Like we have this critic which is like, you blew it, start over tomorrow, pull it together. And then we have an inner rebel, which is like, oh, it doesn't matter. Everybody's having dessert. You don't want to stand out to you know, like we'll start again tomorrow. Yeah, yeah, we'll start again over the holidays. Don't worry about it. Right. So these two kind of run our thinking. And
Right.
then we have this inner coach. Well, what we develop is the inner coach. And that's the voice, which is the strategic, compassionate, like, hey, that didn't work out for you, but what did we learn? What's our goal for this week? What, or how are we going to get there? We can do it. And when you're starting to use your brain in that way, it helps you overcome that old negative thinking and you're engaging your brain because I believe in every single person that they can. And once you start developing that inner coach, you become really powerful and you are able to turn down the volume on the critic and the rebel and you can kind of become fearless.
Yeah.
That's what like I have people in my program who have like started podcasts or gone on TED Talks and stuff like that because they are climb Mount Kilimanjaro because they really when you remove that critic and you really start listening to your coach, what happens is you don't fear taking risk anymore because you know you're not. I mean, you think about that, Stephanie, you think about like if you mess up,
Yeah.
you know, what's the biggest fear that everybody else is going to say you messed up or that you are going to be saying I messed up and right? So
Right.
if you don't fear that from yourself, it opens huge doors for you. So I think I hope I answered your question, but there is a term that we use. We call, and I didn't make this up, but it's like the pain pushes until the vision pulls. And
Mm.
it's this idea that we're in a lot of pain. And a lot of times when we're going on a diet, we want to get out of the pain. And when we go on a diet, the diet does do something. It organizes the chaos we feel. It actually makes us feel good because we're being good on something, right? So we get this little payoff. But the problem is we ultimately don't believe in ourselves and will fall off. And so when we get out of pain, because often I say there's a big, well-worn road to 10 pounds, right? Like we can all lose those 10 pounds. And then we start losing the pain because, hey, I'm fitting in my clothes. And hey, and what happens is we lose focus. And
Mm.
so then we start eating again and we start gaining the weight back. So there's this like well-worn road between, losing 10 pounds, gaining 10 pounds, losing 10. And what we really work on is the vision that pulls you beyond that 10 pounds to like who you are becoming. What are you developing? And it's really about developing yourself from the inside out. And how hypnosis helps us to work with a lot of the limiting beliefs and habits that keep us struggling.
What I'm hearing is it's so much more than stopping smoking or losing weight. Like the picture is
Yeah.
bigger than that. That becomes the noise in our head or what we see or what we focus on. But once those obstacles are removed, then there's so much more for us if we're able to step into that.
Yeah, exactly. Well seen. Like for me on my own journey of weight mastery, I started using, so I quit smoking with hypnosis. And like I said, I was a yo-yo dieter up and down the scale. And I started using hypnosis and I said, I'm never going to diet again. That I had my turning point on standing on a scale, like saying, I had lost weight. And I was like, I know I'm going to gain weight. I can't do this anymore. I feel crazy. It's ruining my life. So I said, I'm not going to diet anymore. I'm just going to figure it out. I'm going to believe in myself and figure like, and I started using some hypnosis and I was able to, get so far. I was able to, you know, eat less and exercise more and started doing things. But I realized I got to a certain point. I was like, hmm, okay, I'm kind of here, but there's further to go. What's missing? And I realized and maybe a lot of your listeners who might be struggling with their weight might understand this too, is that they I realized I was really, really good at being good and really, like, but I didn't know really how to develop myself.
Right.
And so I did research into long-term permanent weight management, and there's a lot of studies. And I started to see that there were behaviors and common behaviors amongst all the people who, the studies. And what I broke it down into were skill sets like mindset, environment, and weight management. And so by looking at weight management as really skills to develop, mental skills, environmental skills, and weight management skills,
Mhm.
it puts your brain in a different place because again, you can make mistakes, as you do when you're building a skill. Um, but it's developing yourself rather than being good.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, I get that. What, so is it different for a 20-year-old versus a 50-year-old menopausal woman? Um,
Mhm.
is that experience different and how do they show up different?
Yeah, completely. It's so interesting. I don't work with a lot of 20-year-olds, I'll be honest with you. The majority of people I work with are 50 plus. And I have 85-year-olds in my courses. And why is that? You would think, oh, okay, well, after a certain point, you just don't care anymore. You actually do. And what you care about though is not so much its weight, but it's also getting this piece of it right. So the difference, I think, and I'll just tell your listeners, in my office, I've been doing what I do for over 20 years, in my office over those 20 years, I have had a metabolism machine, a machine that tests your metabolism. It's called a meta check. If you want to check it out, it's core medical. Um, and there are many, many different ways, but this has been so what happened when I would get clients in and they were like, no matter what I can't do, I can't lose weight. I was like, well, that's okay. Well, let's get the facts first. Let's get the data. So Stephanie, are you still with me? Oh, okay, there you go.
Froze.
Okay, could you hear me? There, you froze, and I don't know if it was me or you, but
Yeah,
anyway.
you froze too. So let's Elby can fix edit this part out. Let's go back to my clients are usually around 85 and then we check their metabolism.
Okay. Yeah, so my clients range, from 45 to 85, but and primarily most of my stuff is now online. But in the 25 years that I've been doing this, or 20 plus years I've been doing this, I have measured people's metabolisms. And the reason why I did this is cognitive, because many people come in with distorted thinking about their bodies. They all believe their bodies are broken, they're not working, they're not releasing weight. And I measured my own metabolism just so your clients understand, like for a menopausal woman, I had a control study because I think I was 37 when I started. I bought this machine. I'm
Okay.
now 61. So I've gone through a couple of machines, so it's not, I'm not working with the same old machine. But what I noticed is over my 40s, my metabolism did decline, about 250 calories a day. Now, there are 3,500 calories. Ooh, I think we froze again.
I can I didn't freeze on my end and
Oh,
you
okay, cool. I don't know what's going on, but that's cool. I'll keep talking. But there
okay.
are about 3,500 calories in a pound of fat. So if you think about that, like decline in metabolism by, 100, 200, maybe 300 calories a day, and you're not resetting your brain about around like what your body is actually burning,
Right.
um, you could gradually gain weight and it can feel frustrating because a lot of women are like, I don't understand. I'm eating the same amount, I'm exercising, but I am gaining weight. And a lot of it does have to do with just the physiological slowdown because you start, I mean, this is all stuff that I know your listeners already know, like they're losing body mass and their hormones are changing. But a lot of it is, when people actually see like, oh, this is what I'm burning on a daily basis, and I actually just have to adjust, and they don't become a victim of that, but they see like this is just data and
Right.
this is fact, and let me now work with it. I have choices. It's not like, you know, I think the thing that we get really hung up on is we feel out of control with it. So I think when you kind of focus on like, well, what can I manage? And a lot of it is our thinking. Because if we're not acknowledging, one, my body is changing, we want to say, no, it's not happening. I get that. We're like, okay, this is my reality. And my body is slowing down. We can scream and cry and have but then we're like, okay, I have some choices. I can either adjust what I'm doing a little bit. It's not a ton, but it's a little bit, or I can start exercising more, changing out things. And the other thing that a lot of women go through, and again, I'm sure you've had lots of experts on, so your clients are very well educated, or your listeners are very well educated, but blood sugar sensitivity, I mean, they start to have more cravings. And again, I'll get clients who are like I've never craved sugar in my entire life, and now I want to eat candy, and now I'm drinking more wine, and then that makes you feel hungrier, and then that makes so looking at all of those pieces and going, well, I do have some power over this, but and a lot of it starts with not allowing yourself to be a victim of it, but to say, what can I do to get that powerful inner coach in you and going, okay, we have a goal. What do we want to do? What we have some choices, and starting to put the pieces of the puzzle together. And then that way, I think you start to take back your power
Yeah.
from things.
Right. That's huge. That's really huge. What if someone they're still curious about hypnosis? They're like, I'm still a little skeptical.
Yeah.
What's one small safe exercise that you think people could try at home?
Um, Well, I think I remember when I used to teach hypnosis, like a remedial, like people would come. We had this thing in LA in the 90s called the Learning Annex,
Uh-huh.
and people would come just learn about hypnosis, and I taught these classes. And one thing we would do is this thing called the lemon exercise, where we would have people close their eyes and just imagine, okay, that you walk into your kitchen and you see a bowl of lemons, and you grab it's a beautiful lemon, it's a big lemon, and you cut it in half, and the juice, flows over your fingers, and you bring that lemon up to your mouth, and then you bite into it. And just like imagining, using your imagination in that way. And I would say, did you feel more saliva in your
Right,
mouth?
right.
And so the conscious mind, the subconscious mind can't separate fantasy from reality. So
Hmm.
why vision work is so important is because we're really using our vision to engage our mind and seeing, like, and feeling that most change happens in the feeling brain. So really feeling like what it would feel like to go on a walk in the morning if you haven't been able to do it yet. Like, oh, I've got to go walking. But if you can't imagine what that feels like athletes will use hypnosis. I just spoke with a hypnotherapist for athletes the other day, and they were saying, yeah, all the athletes think that whole game through before in their minds first, so they know what their plays are. So I one thing that they could do too is I do have, if they're interested in I have two free online master classes, one for smoking and one for weight management. The weight management one does have a weight loss hypnosis session in it. So if they want to try it out, if you feel like you can trust me, like you said, I sound like I know what I'm doing. You can go and listen to that. It's a really great session. It's very easy. We do use visualization. We engage you with your inner coach. So it's a nice first run sort of trial run hypnosis session if they want to try it out.
Yeah, and I will make sure that I link that information in the show notes for people as well.
Yeah, it's actually just my website, www.shiftweightmastery.com/free.
Okay.
So
All right.
just
Yeah.
remember that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I know it seems kind of crazy. I remember, like, did you see the movie Get Out?
No, I have
Yeah.
not watched that. My kids are like, you need to watch. I'm like, it's kind of scary.
So the hypnotist looks a little like me, and
Now I gotta watch it.
and she has a teacup,
Uh-huh.
and she like is stirring the teacup, and the guy's sitting across from her, And she's like, fall into the floor. And he falls in and goes through this big thing. And she helps him though quit smoking.
Oh,
And so when people come to my office, they're like, I'm
uh-oh.
gonna fall into the floor. I'm like, sorry. I'm like, oh, I was like, Hollywood, what are you doing to my career?
No, you will not fall into the floor. You're not hopping on like a rabbit.
No,
Now, I
no.
have to at least watch a clip now.
I think it's actually a really good movie.
That's what I
It's a really good movie. It's got a lot of great themes in it, but yeah, that one was like, uh-oh.
Rita, if you could give your 25-year-old self any advice at all, what would that be?
Oh my gosh. I saw that question and I loved it. My daughter is 23. So I will give my 25 self the 23-year-old advice as well. It's just like believe in yourself. You have everything you need to have the life of your dreams already in you. I think we keep looking outside of ourselves. I always am telling my daughter, you are enough. You are enough. And that's what I would tell my 25-year-old self because that's what I did not believe. And I don't know about you, Stephanie, but my 20s, I do work with 20-year-olds, especially in the smoking world. And the brain is so crazy in our 20s. We're all over the place. It's chaotic. So I would just say it's going to get better. I know you don't believe me, but you can believe in yourself. And I would say you are enough.
Yeah. I like that a lot. I like that a lot. Rita, give everyone your website one more time.
Sure, it's www.shiftweightmastery.com. That's like shifting car gears, shiftweightmastery.com/free is the masterclass. And then I do have a smoking website, www.smokefree123 without any hyphens or anything, just 123.com.
Okay. Sounds great. Again, I'll put all that information in the show notes. Thank you so much for being a guest today.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's been so wonderful and so lovely to meet you, Stephanie.
Same here. Same here. Everyone, thank you so much for your time and thank you for listening to the podcast. Here at Hello Hot Flash, we just want to say, here's to your health. Here's a question. When was the last time you had a health program designed specifically for your body? Most programs forget that women over 40 do not live cookie cutter lives. We are navigating menopause, we're working, we're taking care of others, we're sleep deprived, and all of this is going on within 1 week. Reverse Health gets it. It's a wellness app designed specifically for midlife women, not for 22-year-olds doing burpees in a crop top. Real women going through real challenges and real changes in their lives. Reverse Health brings together expert design workouts plus personalized meal plans, fasting protocols, and simple tracking tools, all backed by the latest research for women. This is not about shrinking yourself. It's about feeling strong again, clear again, you again. So if you've been waiting for a sign, this is it. Check out the show notes for a link to Reverse Health and use the code HelloHotFlash for a 10% discount. The information shared in this episode is for educational purposes only and is not intended as medical advice. Always consult with your healthcare provider before starting any new supplement, including adaptogens, especially if you have underlying health conditions or take medications. The views expressed by our guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of Hello Hot Flash.